Hey, how's it going? You got a minute to talk?
All right, Lizzie, thank you so much for taking time to join me and have this conversation. For those of you who don't know, I have a guest today, Elizabeth Jirak. We've rehearsed this, we've gone over it, and we got it. Elizabeth Jirak, aka Lizzie Letters or Lizzie. So, Lizzie, I want to give you a moment just to share who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your page.
Yeah, nailed the name. I run Lizzie Letters since I started when I was 15. I've basically just done calligraphy, graphic design. It's hard to like put one name on it. But I've been running an Instagram account with basically Bible verses, whatever I feel like the Lord is teaching me in the moment most of the time. Um, I'm coming up on my fifth year, which is insane. But yeah, I was homeschooled. I graduated in 2021. Homeschooled my whole life. It made running a graphic design account much easier.
Yeah.
And then I've worked with kids ever since then, so in various forms. But yeah, that's what I do
And
now.
you're sitting just shy of 11,000 followers right
Yes,
now.
yes. Yeah, I actually hit 11,000 in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and then lost like 600 followers taking a break, which I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice to be like starting to get back up there again.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's how it goes. I think it was like June of 23. I
Yeah.
a little bit of intention behind it, but I lost 1,000 in a month.
Yeah.
Just like in one swift kick to
It's
the head.
crazy how fast it
Yeah.
happens.
It is like all I did was post, and then a
Yes.
thousand people are like, we're out, we're done with this.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I don't think I've shared this publicly, but something we do have in common is I was also homeschooled my entire
Oh,
life.
nice. Yeah.
So some common ground there.
Yeah.
I it's funny because in like a professional setting, there will be people who are like, gosh, I will never homeschool my kids. They're
Yeah.
gonna be so weird. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah,
I know.
right.
I can't tell you how many times I got the like, you are the most normal homeschooler I've ever met. And I was like, yeah, it's because my parents did a good job.
Yeah. We always differentiated. We said we're homeschooled. We're not homeschoolers.
Yes.
Like yes, we did school at home, but like we never identified with the the brand.
Right. Yeah.
But no, that's great. So you've been doing it for 5 years,
Hmm.
and what I've always found so interesting is you started it when you were 15.
Yeah.
So young, but I guess you had time on your hands because as
Mm.
homeschooled kids do, they finish school at 12 o'clock and they're like, well,
Uh-huh.
what am I going to do with the rest of the day? Um, being that young when you started the page, was your goal to become this influencer on Instagram? What was the goal behind Lizzie Letters when you started it?
I mean, honestly, so my access to the internet was very limited. I, as it should have been, but
Yeah.
I had to like beg my parents on my knees to like, I don't know what it was, but I just was like, I really want to start posting on Instagram.
Mm.
I've always been sort of like interested in the like marketing side of things
No.
also. And so I was like, just please let me. And so my dad let me have a private Instagram account and it was like just my family and friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a phone, so I used my mom's phone. And like I would get my like, Mom, can I use your phone? I need to post something, or like I need to take pictures. And I didn't have an iPad yet, so I was
Mhm.
just doing like hand lettered stuff on paper for friends and family. And I don't know, something about it. I just like really loved it. And I think I never like thought that I would like one day have a real following, but I was always
Mhm.
like, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm not against that. And then like I want to say it was 4 to 6 months later, I like saved up all my money from I was a lifeguard, so I saved up all my lifeguarding money. I bought an iPad, and then I didn't get a phone till I was almost 18, and so I just ran Lizzie letters from my iPad. I think eventually I like convinced my dad to let me go public, so then I went public, and it's like genuinely, it just happened so naturally that people just started following me. I wasn't like, I researched hashtag lists or whatever, and I was like following people, but I wasn't like that. I didn't work that hard at it. And so eventually when it started taking off, I was like, wait, is this real?
Yeah.
And I still think like the benefit of starting it so young is like you don't really know that it's real. Like it's all just
Mhm.
like fake. And I'm Gen Z, so like the internet is not real. It's not real life. And like
Yeah.
it still feels like most of the time there's a few people like I feel like I talk to you and so I like register you as a real person. There's a
Mhm.
couple of other people that I've talked to over the years that are like, okay, these are real people, but the rest of it is like it's not even real life. So
Um, with your hand lettering, are you self-taught? Did you do any type of classes, training, anything at all like that?
yeah, I'm self-taught. My mom gave me like a calligraphy book for Christmas one year,
Hmm.
and that just kind of launched it. I remember like being in seventh grade and being like, I wish I could take cool notes I went to like a 1 day a week co-op and I was like,
Yeah.
I want to take cool notes like those girls. But I really like didn't have any artistic skills.
Hmm.
I've always just like been able to pick up like creativity skills. I was
Yeah.
like teaching myself how to knit when I was like 10. But it was something that was like, okay, I'm just gonna like practice and practice and practice. And eventually just like honestly, it's just time and like doing the same thing over and over again. And I've solidified the style that is mine. And I feel like it's constantly changing and evolving. And I love that about it. It's the beauty of being self-taught, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And you had all that time because you were
Yes.
homeschooled.
Yes.
It's
And it
like,
was COVID.
there you go.
I actually went to like we went to this co-op that was like rigorous classical. It
Hmm.
was 1 day a week, but it was like if you combined a private classical academy into 1 day a week. So I actually didn't have a lot of time. I just made a lot of
There
time.
you go.
I did a lot of like, I'm gonna take a break from
Mhm.
school. But I made it. So
Yeah. No, that's great. At 15 years old, starting this, thinking back to when I was 15, I don't even know. I I would have never had the foresight to think, you know what? I'm gonna just start something. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't even know if I was real when I was 15. I think I
yeah.
was a typical dumb
Yeah.
teenage boy. But then Lizzie's like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna build a calligraphy empire. Why not? Between
Yeah.
lunch and dinner.
Yeah. I'm the oldest of seven, and so it probably is some like type A oldest kid kind of thing. It's
There you
going
go.
into that. It's like I'm gonna be, I mean, I didn't think I was gonna be famous, but like I'm gonna do something
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, so oldest of seven. I feel like I want to guess here. Mainly sisters.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
one brother.
Mm.
He's 13 months younger than me, and then the rest are girls.
All right. I always like whenever I see you share anything about your personal life, I always like get this picture of like Pride and Prejudice. I, I think of your
Yeah.
dad as the dad in Pride and Prejudice. I'm like
No, it's very accurate.
like all these sisters running around. I'm like this probably a Jane Austen novel, like at
Yeah,
their home.
pretty much. Yep.
That's phenomenal. So at what point you start with a private account? So I'm going to assume your
Yeah.
growth probably wasn't
No, yeah.
fantastic at that point, but you go public. What was kind of the time frame of you go public, you start posting? At what point did you think, you know what, this is actually becoming a thing? What was maybe that milestone moment?
I feel like it took me a while. I feel like once I got past a follower count that I could be like, okay, this is not just people
Yeah.
I know. Like this is random people. And I was following like other artists at the time. And so like it made sense to me that other artists would follow me. I don't think I thought of myself as like good enough for other artists to follow me, but it was still like, okay, just like artists. And then like real people start following me. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And then I feel like once I hit 500 or so, it started being
Mhm.
like, oh, like this is a thing and this is like actively growing. And it kind of shifted the way that I thought about it.
Mhm.
I did like, this is an embarrassing confession, but when I was first like started getting followers, I would go like spam like another artist, and then they would follow me back. And sometimes I didn't even follow them, which is awful. But I got a solid amount of followers like in the beginning by doing that, which is like that's where you're like, okay, yeah, she was definitely 15. Like,
Yeah. Do you remember your first pro church media feature?
no.
No.
It wasn't that long ago. I really do think like um getting noticed by like the church graphic design
Mhm.
community is like in the last 2 years, I would say.
Really?
It's not that it's pretty recent. So I don't think it was that long ago, to be honest. And honestly, a big bulk of my growth happened in like 2021, 2022. Probably 2022 is when I really started actually growing. So
Okay. Um,
mm,
I don't know all the details here, but along the way, you had the opportunity of creating a t-shirt for live
mhm.
action, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Give the story behind that. Where did that happen in your journey?
Um, I think I wrote the dates down. It was it was pretty soon. I think it was in fall. It was fall of 2021. Yeah. Um, I've always been like pro-life was never a question to me. Um, but I had gone to several March for Lives with the group there. I'd gone as a student and then I'd chaperoned. And so like it was becoming more of an interest to me. I'd done some like I had like a small spin-off pro-life lettering account that I'd
Okay.
done some with. It died because people were very mean.
Yeah.
But then Live Action posted a contest. It was like doing t-shirt designs. I had done several other like random design contests that usually they don't pan out well because it's just like I never hear back or like millions of people answer and I'm not the one selected. So I'm used to just being like, well, I'll just like do a one-off design and then it'll take me an hour and I'll just submit it and maybe I'll win. You never know.
Yeah.
But this was really interesting to me because it was like a something that I cared about a lot
Mhm.
and I like live action. But then it started like I think I submitted and I didn't hear back from them. Usually the communication these things is like really awful.
Yeah.
I didn't hear back from them like ever. And then it took several months and then it was just like on their Instagram, voting is open, and I was in the round and I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
So that I was like just quickly scrambled telling all of my friends and family like
Mhm.
go vote for me in the live action thing. And I honestly still was like, I don't think I'm gonna win because there were so many other really talented people in that contest. I don't know if it was the first one they'd done, but I think it was very new.
Mhm.
And it was the I'd have first time. I think I've probably had a couple of times being featured by someone bigger, but it was probably the first big time. So having that was really interesting. And then finally I won. And I remember being like, oh my gosh. It was I was living with another family at the time and I
Yeah.
was like, guys, you will never believe what happened. Live Action is selling my t-shirt and they
Mhm.
still are. And I still look at it and I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Did that help your following at all? Like from live action, did you see a spike because of the t-shirt, or was it just kind of a one of those things that you look at and you're like, I don't really care how it affected my page personally. This is just one
Mm.
of the coolest things I've done.
I feel like I probably gained like 200 to 300, which is a lot. It's
Yeah.
pretty significant. I've had a couple like mentions like that.
Hmm.
I feel like, and it's the being on social media for so long. It's like, oh well, every time someone big mentions me, like it's normal. I get 200, 300 followers,
Yeah.
but it was like that. But honestly, like I was just excited that I got to have that feature. I think it's
Mhm.
cool to be able to contribute something like that to the cause. I don't know. It doesn't affect that much, but having it in that world is just cool.
Yeah. So you said that was fall of 21. Am I
Yeah.
remember correctly? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So fairly recent. You had
Yes.
been pretty established at that point. That's great. So you start so young. And what I find interesting is I don't know if you've seen in recent news, Florida is actually trying to get into law. They want to ban 16 and under, like teenagers 16 and under, from having
Hmm.
any social media, like totally
Yeah.
making it illegal. And when I saw that, I was like, huh, it's funny that, you know, the average 16-year-old, some people look at that and like, don't even let them touch it.
Right.
But you come in at 15 and you're like, I'm going to take this and run with it. And you've
Hmm.
been very successful with it. Um, and I'll just attribute that to the fact that you were homeschooled. I'm going to use this as a
Probably, yeah.
platform to be like, you know what, homeschool kids,
Yes.
they're the exception.
Yes.
Um, no, that's really interesting. So this is really off topic, but I have to insert it here. You were featured recently by Canon Press on their
Hmm.
stories. And I wore my plot hat today.
I have mine
So
right here.
I reached out to them and I said, I actually know Lizzie and she's going to be on my podcast soon. And I said, and we both have plot hats. And I don't know what I expected, but I did get one comment from Canon Press on this episode. And the fact that they chose to comment on it, I'm going to capitalize on it. So Lizzie
Mhm.
from from Canon Press, they say epic. End
That
quote.
is winning.
So
The
epic.
funny story about Canon Press is that I have a long history with Canon Press and New St. Andrews
Mm,
because well, it started like I read Andy Wilson's fiction
yeah.
in when I was like 12 or 13, and I was like obsessed, like fully, like homeschool level obsessed with fantasy fiction.
Yeah.
And it really did. His Ashtown Burial series really did like change my life and set me
Mhm.
on a trajectory for like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. There's some really influential quotes from it that it was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
But I applied to New St. Andrews like 2 or 3 years in a row, or not 2 or 3 years, but like I started talking to them,
Mhm.
applied um, to go right after high school, and then like obviously they don't take government funding, so I couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
So then went to go take a gap year to work to go to New St. Andrews. So I'd been talking to NSA since 10th grade,
Oh.
since about the time I started Lizzie Letters. I'd been in talking to them.
Mhm.
It's like every home classical homeschooler's dream, obviously. It's like
Yeah.
the perfect
Yeah.
college. And I really wanted to go. But then once I got to like a year of not being in high school, it was just like, it was clear that that was not in the Lord's plans for me. And
Mhm.
so it was a dream that had to die. But I have been involved in talking to them for a long time. And I've
Yeah.
been a Canon Press fan for a long time, loyal Canon Plus subscriber.
There you go. Which could make you one of the most hated people in the world,
Exactly.
or
You
you
have to
could
be careful bringing up Doug Wilson.
exactly. My wife and I, we just recently started attending a CREC church,
Hmm.
and that was the first place where I was like it. I mean, this is taboo among homeschoolers, but it's
Yes.
like a Harry Potter moment of like,
Oh,
can I say his name? Can
yes.
I?
Yes.
Like anywhere else, it's like don't say the Doug name.
Don't say it. Yes.
I got I made a post a while ago, just kind of like clarifying a lot of my positions because I
Hmm.
was in a weird spot of like, people will follow you and have a lot of assumptions about you just
Yes.
because they want you to be a certain way, and then they
Yeah.
realize that like, oh, you're not the version that I made my mind. So among
Hmm.
these things I listed, I read Doug Wilson and enjoy it, and that was probably the beginning of the end for
Yeah.
for me for a long period of time. Um, but I think it's safe to say Canon Press in a way has sponsored this episode with
Yes,
their
for
with their
sure.
comments.
Yeah.
So in the bio, Canon, I'm quoting you on it. We're tagging you. We're we're running with it. Um, that this is also off topic. So classically trained, like classical
Hmm.
education.
Yeah.
Just got to ask, what's the denominational background then? Because classically educated kids are usually within like a very
Yes.
specific group. So I'm curious, what's the
Yeah.
denominational background?
I'm probably one of the few that is not, I come from a non-denominational background,
Really?
very non-denominational. My church is like very wide. My family goes more towards reformed.
Hmm.
It's just what my family lands on, but my church is like everybody. I feel like I think my pastor leans towards reformed, but it's not something that they like hold people to. I don't know. My church is very small. I don't think that that model would work for like a bigger church, but
Hmm.
my church has maybe 50 people on a full Sunday, and so that's normal. But the school I went to is very non-denominational, not reformed at all. So it's probably the rare non-denominational, non-reformed, non-Calvinist classical school.
Oh, that is interesting. Are they like among the like that same classical movement that came out of Moscow? Like,
Um, so do you know Memoria Press?
I'm not familiar.
Memoria Press is a classical curriculum.
Okay.
It's based out of Nashville at this point, but it's actually the founder of Memoria Press, or I don't come for me if the real people know what it is, but the one of the guys who was very involved in the founding of Memoria Press helped start my school. So I think it is the like non-denominational side of classical
Hmm.
education is probably where my school comes out of.
Okay.
So it's more of a just these people saw a desire. They were like, we see classical education as this really great model for
Hmm.
homeschooling, and so we're going to use it. And so then it's like the rare, like obviously Doug Wilson brought classical
Yeah.
education to America,
Hmm.
but it's the rare non-affiliated with Calvinism.
That's interesting. That is like a unicorn
Yes.
among classical education. That's fascinating. Okay, well, cool. So here you are. You're homeschooled. You've got this classical education background, which I believe plays a part into what I guess what equipped you to do
Hmm.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
There are certainly lessons and practical application from the classical philosophy that I
Yeah,
think
for
equip
sure.
students to go and do things with their hands, build real things
Hmm.
rather than just taking tests. That's my
Hmm.
plug for classical education over the standard Christian education that we see. So you get big, you get this following of thousands of people.
Hmm.
Like I said, you're sitting just shy of 11,000.
Hmm.
There obviously comes a point, and I think a lot of creators will resonate with this, is that everybody has that one post
Hmm.
where you start to question, like, have I gotten too big? Have I reached the wrong people? Like, is it really worth it? And the moment that at least I recognized it for you of like, oh my goodness, I think this is the moment,
Yeah.
is when Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yeah.
Now, you're the girl who made the March for Life shirt. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Like
naturally,
clearly this is the thing. Yeah.
yeah. So you make this post. Um, and I also posted on the same day. I think I just put a story up,
Hmm.
and just from one story on Instagram, I was getting heat. But
Yeah.
you did a full blown post, and the comments were just horrendous. I
Yeah.
think
It was wild.
drink bleach was thrown
Yeah.
out. I think I saw a call for you to eat glass
Yes.
was
Yeah.
among the comments.
Yeah.
So at that point, I mean, what was that? 2022? Was that
I think
22?
so. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Spring 2022.
not long after you literally just made the shirt, like
Yeah.
not long after. Um, how did you navigate that? Like, how did you navigate the severe backlash
Hmm.
from people that obviously, well, maybe I don't know. Were these people who were following your page, or were these people that it
Yeah.
broke out into the algorithm?
It just some of it, like I feel like it was a good half and half. Some of
Mm,
the half of them did follow me, and half of them was just like they're seeing it in their algorithm, they're seeing it with hashtags. A lot of it was I had a lot of people being like, I'm unfollowing this hashtag, and I think it was like the graphic design hashtags that I was tagging it with. Like they were
mm,
seeing it because they were graphic designers. But yeah, for me it was like, well, I've always turned to like my art as a way that like this is how I express myself is like in my art. And so Roe v. Wade is overturned, and like I it was a normal work day for me. I was like teaching kids how to read. I was just sitting
Yeah.
there, and like Roe v. Wade is overturned and my whole day is disrupted, obviously, because it's this like incredibly joyous time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I have to make something. So I like dashed something off really quick and I just like posted it without thinking about it. And I really did feel like in that moment, I think I said something like, the Lord has heard the cries of his people, because to me, it really did. I had this huge, like, it felt like this pressing weight of like, the Lord has heard us. Like,
Mhm.
it has been so long. And so to me, it was like very, like, the Holy Spirit was in it. And I was so overjoyed. And I was like, obviously, I'm going to post something. Like, there was no doubt. Like, obviously, I'm going to. And then I had some experience with, like, I knew that I was going to get hate. I had a spin-off Lizzie Letters thing where I did post pro-life stuff.
Mhm.
And really, it was just like people telling me to die every day.
Yeah.
So I was like, not good for me."
Yeah.
But in the end, like, I can safely say it genuinely doesn't bother me that much, other than to feel sorry for those people.
Mm.
Like, I don't go around and comment. I see posts that I think are like blatantly wrong and
Mhm.
hurtful to me, and I feel bad for those people, but I don't go and say that they should die, because I don't believe that those people should die. Like, I believe that they should be saved. I believe that they should be called out by someone. Probably not on the comments of Instagram. That's probably not the place to call them out. Um, but I honestly, all of these comments were like, I just feel bad for these people. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and like pray over you. I
Mhm.
don't know. I had a lot of people, like, I had people that I didn't even know that well be like, oh, I was reporting every comment. So it was like cool to see
Yeah.
people be like, yeah, this is wrong. People shouldn't tell you that. Um, but in the end, it honestly didn't bother me that
Mm.
much. Um, and I think it was also like, it's hard to take away from the joy of that day, because for me, it was just such a joyful day
Yeah.
to finally have this ended.
Yeah. Did it impact your following at all? Did you see a drop after that post?
I did lose some followers, but I don't think that it was that many, because I also gained quite a lot.
Mm.
There's like
No.
there's an influx of, you'll get a lot of pro-life and you'll lose all of your non-pro-life, which
Yeah.
is positive. So,
No. No,
but
that's always a good sign. It's always encouraging to see, oh, I'm reaching the people that I want to
mhm,
reach. Um, okay. So in my timeline, I see that as like a very pivotal moment.
mhm,
Then a year or so passes, and then you come to this point where
mhm,
you say, I'm going to take a little bit of a break.
mhm.
Um, Give some light into what led you to that point where you decided to step away from it. How did you benefit from the break, and what prompted you to return?
There's so much in this, so I'm excited to talk about it. I feel like, I want to say that like 6 months before that, I would have said like unequivocally, there is no burnout in the kingdom of God. I think I may have posted something like that. There is
Mhm.
no burnout in the kingdom of God. Theoretically, that's true, because if you're like walking in line with whatever the Lord has for you and you're just following him, your energy isn't coming from you, or your inspiration isn't coming from you, it's coming from the Lord. It's a lot more complicated than just that. It's a very like 19-year-old Liz thing to say. And I'm saying that I'm barely 20, so um I see things very black and white
Mhm.
until they're not anymore. And
Yeah.
so it was a very me thing to say, but I started hitting this thing where I was like, I have no desire to create. I have no ideas. And I have almost 800 posts, I think. And almost all of those are like new original pieces of art, because in the beginning I really did have like enough inspiration to like make something new and post it every single day. And a lot of that was with like captions and like long things to say. And but that was when my life was like much simpler. I was still in high school and it was
Mhm.
easier for me. Um I moved to live with a family and nanny for them. They had 14 kids, and insane, and
Hold
I
up.
love them.
Are you sure you're not living in a Jane Austen novel? Like, are you sure you're like,
I
oh,
haven't checked. I'm not sure.
let's take our 7 and double it, and I'm the
Yes.
nanny now.
Yes, it's wild, and I
Yeah.
love them really very dearly. It was a really difficult time for me. It was a huge transition, and I like just thrown into living adult life. My parents did a really good job of prepping me for that, but obviously there was nothing like living 2 hours away from home and with your work and balancing that and going to a new church and balancing all of the things that come with that. And I was still like running Etsy shop and trying to manage an 8-hour workday and a personal life. And I was volunteering for like 3 different ministries at the same time. And because I really was like, I'm just going to do as much as I can, because I really do believe that in this time of, and like in that time of life when you're young and you're single and you don't have anything to do, that like the best thing you can do is just like serve the church, serve the Lord, do as much as you can. I was not doing it in the right way. I just kept adding more and more just to be like, look how much I can do. And my, I think a lot of my identity again was just like in this, like, look at all of these things that I'm doing. I'm using social media for all of this, and I'm still running Lizzie letters and growing, and I'm still doing this work, and I'm still like, that was who I was what I was producing. And that is a recipe for disaster. And so, like, as it starts crashing down and I start being like, I don't have anything left in me, I knew I had to change something. And cutting off the social media that you've had since you were 15 is like, I wish that it wasn't that difficult, but it really is like a huge part of who I am. And so, being like, I knew that I had to cut it off, but I didn't know how. And then, in spring of 2023, my friend called me and was like, they're doing this camp thing. So the school that I went to is run by like a family of churches, and they have run this thing called CTS. It's I'm blanking on what it's called. But it's basically like a 10-week camp in the summer where you just like do this super intense regimen of like waking up early to pray and eating together and then working. Usually in the past, they've all just like worked together on the land or somewhere, and then evening prayer, and then you go to bed and you do it all over again for 10 weeks in the summer. You live together and you don't have any social media. You have extremely limited access to your phone. You don't listen to music. You don't read, basically like being a monk for the summer. And they were revamping it with when you could go to work during the day. And that had been my biggest thing. I was like, well, I have to work. I have to have money somehow.
Mhm.
And so when I got that call, like I knew immediately that this was what the Lord had for me. And I knew I needed some way to move back home. And I was like, oh, this is my golden ticket to move back home. So I moved back home in the spring. I actually went to India for 2 weeks for a mission trip and then moved in immediately after that and started a new job. And I did that, and I didn't have any social media. I didn't listen to any music. And that, like, even like halfway through, I was like, I'm never doing Lizzie letters again.
Mm.
Like, at that point, I was like, I'm never touching social media ever again. I think my dad was like, so all you had to do to be happy again was just delete social media? And I was like, yeah. I hadn't been happy for a really long time, and I was so happy that summer. And I think really I worked maybe harder than I did before. But the thing was that my identity was separate in that. So my identity was not in all of the work that I was doing or the way that I was serving people. My identity was in like who I was to the Lord and who I was to these people around me, who they recognized me as, and who the Lord was telling me that I was. And I think that really shifted the way that I saw that and the way that I was on social media. So then when I came back, when I finished in like August. I didn't post for a long time. And I think I was like, I'm just gonna take it slow. And I wanted to come back to art first. I wanted to come back to the art side of it. So um, I didn't want to like push myself to make anything. I think I just like waited until I felt that little like, the spark that you get when you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I have it, like I see this vision in my head. And so then I like made it and I didn't post it, which is actually a difficult thing for me. I am so used to the like instant turnaround of like make something, post it, make something, like
Yeah.
prep the post to go or whatever. And it was freeing to just have that where like I didn't like put it up as a listing on Etsy or something. I
Hmm.
don't know. That like muscle memory is
Yeah.
still there, still reach for that. But just creating to create, and because that is a way that I like worship the Lord, in a way that the Lord speaks to me is through creating. So um I just sat there with that for a while, um and let that go. And then finally I think I was like, when I was like, I think it might be time, so I just posted
Mm.
just slowly. And a lot of it is about like not putting pressure on myself. So if I don't post for a week, then I don't post for a week. It's not
Yeah.
Lizzie Letters isn't there for anyone to like. I'm not there to chug out
Hmm.
content. I'm not, nobody's paying me to do this. I'm just doing it because I think it's what the Lord wants me to do with my
Yeah.
art. So, yeah, and here I am. I still don't know, like, I haven't opened Lizzie Letters Etsy. I haven't, I don't know. I still don't know, like, I don't have a direction for it. I'm just kind of out there posting art.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. Kind of
Stay
just make it
tuned.
as I make it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and you touched on something that's really important to me is you said I'm not doing this. I'm not making any money off of this. And
Hmm.
that is something I think people don't recognize is like for me, I work a full-time job to support
Hmm.
my family, and then I go home, spend time with my kids, spend time with my wife, and
Hmm.
then in the
Yeah.
little bit of time I have left, I make content.
Yeah.
Not because I'm making any money off of it. The
Hmm.
the jobs that I get off of social media are not as frequently as well.
Yeah.
Let this be a hint. I still work a full-time job. So
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not like I'm like, oh yes, Instagram, pay my bills. That's just
Right.
not the case. Um, but the way that social media is just wired is just that instant
Hmm.
gratification. It's that consumer mindset of
Hmm.
like, you exist for me, correct? I followed you so that that
Right.
pays your bills, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think just reminder to everybody listening is that your favorite creator, there are the some that get to do it full time, like,
Hmm.
and props to them, but many of them are living a life just like you and working a job, taking care of a
Hmm.
family, navigating relationships, you know, normal life, and they're
Hmm.
still creating. So I think there's a need for grace. I
Yeah.
mean, there's always a need for grace, but for your favorite creator, go ahead and thank them for doing it for free. I
Yeah.
think that's my challenge to anybody
Yeah.
listening because it is a passion project for a lot of people.
No, yeah.
The poking stick, whatever you want to call it, I do it because I enjoy it. It's
Hmm.
fun. I these
Hmm.
conversations are fun, not because I've got some big
Yeah.
Canon Plus deal where
Yeah.
they're paying me to
Hint,
wear their hat
hint.
or no, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So you take this break, you go to India. What did India do for you? How did that help you in this journey?
I feel like it was nice to have it as like a threshold of this, like, there's so much change happening in my life. I was dealing with like moving away from this family and these little kids that I've loved on for 2 years was much more difficult than I anticipated to be. I think I was like, oh, I'll just move away and like I'll see them again or whatever. But it really is difficult to move away from these people that I love. And then I went to India and I literally had never been on a plane. And I was on a plane when I was like two. That was the
Hmm.
last time. And I'm on like immediately a 14-hour flight to India.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a honestly, I see it as a like a threshold to be like, okay, this is this change, and it sparks off this change in my life where I'm changing as a person, I'm evolving, I'm becoming a different kind of adult than I was. Um, a lot when you don't go to college, I think you miss out on this like intermediate stage of adulthood. Um, Getting thrown straight into that as like a 17-year-old is like very odd
Hmm.
and people don't expect that. I remember talking to my friends who were in college and like just the things that they were talking about and like concerned about were so drastically different from the things that I was talking about and was
Hmm.
concerned about. But you do miss out on that like there's like some pressure to be an adult but not as much. And so there's like a transition time there that I didn't get. And so
Yeah.
I had to just transition. So this newer phase of my life that's like, okay, now I'm being a more on my own adult, or I'm making more decisions, or I think differently. My brain is obviously still changing.
Hmm.
um, I feel less like a child. It really starts in India for me. Um, and the honestly the biggest thing that came out of me is seeing the kingdom of God existing, not just like in these people that I've known my whole life or these
Yeah.
churches that I've gone to my whole life. Um, I remember walking into their church on Sunday morning and being like, oh, like this is the exact same Holy Spirit and Father and Son that I experience
Yeah.
when I walk into my church. Like it was the exact same feeling. And this exact same love of Christ that these people represent as the people that I've known my whole life represent. And so the kingdom of God spanning across the nations is became so much more real to me. And we live such a like, I hate to be cliche or talk about things people talk about all the time, but we do live such a individualized American Christian life. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. We just can't forget that that's not the only thing that exists.
Yeah.
And so, like, it really did something for breaking out of just like, this is my life that I live the same thing every day. And so, going to a whole nother country and experiencing people whose lives are totally and completely different from mine, but
Hmm.
yet we still serve the exact same God, kind of in the exact same way,
Yeah.
was really influential in how I like chose to live the next few months.
That's great. Was it refreshing to be a complete stranger to these people? You know, you could walk up to them and be like, I have, I have 11,000 followers on Instagram, and that means absolutely nothing to them.
Oh, that's like my worst fear. I am a very like shy person, and
Hmm.
so it would definitely was um refreshing, but it wasn't that new because I tried to like not bring up that I
Yeah.
have any other part of my life except the one that they're seeing right now.
Hmm.
I did go with like people that I have known semi my whole life. I don't see them that often, but I have known of them or
Yeah.
know them. So it was nice to like be with them, but it definitely was, yeah, it's interesting to be like, okay, who do you see me as?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I relate to you on this of like as I interact with people and I see that like the circle's closing in, where like I
Hmm.
start interacting with people who are like from Middle Tennessee, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the chance of seeing somebody in public is higher now.
Yes.
I am terrified of someone like
Yes.
recognizing me. It's like
Yeah. And I don't know.
I'd melt.
Yes. No. Yes. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but like Lizzie Letters is such an important part of my life, but I don't know how to bring it up in a way that's other than like I have 11,000 Instagram
Yeah.
followers. Like, how do I, because when you say like I have a thriving social media account where I share about the Lord, like that sounds very like I'm better than you
Yeah.
because to some people, like to me, that's just like my everyday life. That doesn't,
Hmm.
it's not that big to me, but to other people, it's like, oh, like that's a thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole like artist thing. I think people like if you don't have any artistic talent, and I don't think that's true. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have any artistic talent. But to people who like don't use that every day, it's a whole other world that's
Yeah.
like totally different. But
Yeah. I so I've been in positions where I've had to like actually bring it up because a lot of my portfolio is based off of stuff that I've done for the poking stick.
Yeah.
And I'm working with some people right now, and I had to like show them what I've done, which
Yeah.
prompted them to then look at the page. And I'm like, no, like you're not supposed to know about this. Just
This is again like this is supposed to be fake life.
yeah,
Real
exactly.
life and fake life are not supposed to cross.
Exactly. Oh man, it's embarrassing. I don't know why. It's
It
like
is.
I've put so much time and effort into this, but I'm like, oh man, that's how cringe. Why would I why would I ever
Yes.
do this posting on
Yes.
Instagram? No, it's a wild world. Um, some people embrace it well. I'm
Hmm.
I'm just not there. I'm not there at all.
Yeah.
Maybe when I have 11,000 followers like Lizzie Letters, maybe then
I don't know.
I'll feel better about it. So yeah, it's kind of up in the air, but your next steps,
Hmm.
definitely we can plan on it being a little different. Um,
Hmm.
not the usual post Etsy listing,
Hmm.
this a well-oiled machine just
Yeah.
cranking out content. So that's definitely not the future.
Yeah.
Do you have any like big picture projects that you'd like to accomplish as you enter this new stage, or is it just in your kind of cottage era, you're just going to lay low and, you know, take care of, just take care of your kids at the daycare?
Yeah. I think I really am enjoying just being like posting whatever I feel like posting or posting whatever I love posting. I've done a lot on like TikTok lately where I'm just like, because nobody follows me on TikTok, so I can
There you
just be
go.
like, nobody ever sees it. So whatever I post is kind of fun.
Hmm.
And it's not even like lettering content half the time. It's just like I do really love social media and the concept of social media. And so just like experimenting with that. But I would think one constant for Lizzie Letters has been like being really honest about whatever I'm feeling or thinking or going through. And so just can I think right now I'm into like just continuing to be like, okay, this is exactly what I'm thinking about right now, or this is like the scripture that's blowing my mind. I think a lot of the time I post scripture and then I like want to just completely be like, did you read this? Because to me, it really like I'm posting it because it just blew my mind that
Yeah.
day or something like that. But I really don't have anything long term. Obviously, like someday I would love to really get into the like product side of things, but that's just such a whole nother world that I really don't think I'm ready for that right now.
Yeah. It's wild how people, mad respect to some of the
Yeah.
people that I'm going to be speaking to in the future of
Hmm.
like, they're they're doing their one page and they're like, oh, but I've also got this side page with tens of
Hmm.
thousands of followers, and here's my shop, and here are my digital goods. It blows my
Yes.
mind. So
Yes.
hey,
Yes.
no harm in taking some time to rest.
Yeah.
And that, I think that goes full circle to, when I asked you to come on, the topic that I mentioned was just burnout, you
Hmm.
know. And for you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like burnout, it wasn't something that you managed to avoid, but it hit
Hmm.
you and you
Yeah.
had to recover from it, which I think
Yeah.
is a very valuable perspective of,
Hmm.
you know, a lot of people would rather know how to avoid those problems, but I think
Right.
it's extremely valuable to know how to recover from it because
Right.
there are a lot of artists that
Hmm.
I've seen who they've just disappeared. And it's
Hmm.
like I hate to see them go because
Yeah.
there are a lot of talented, wonderful people out there that
Hmm.
got hit by the burnout. They got hit by the
Hmm.
monster that is social media. So I'm really grateful for your perspective. I'm really grateful that you took the time to share your story.
Yeah.
You are definitely a key figure in this weird little corner of the internet, but I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people. We're glad Lizzie Letters is still here. So I'm glad you were able to recover from that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and we'll wrap it up there. But if you want to take a moment, just kind of share where people can find you,
Hmm.
and what they can expect. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Lizzie_letters. My real life is linked on my Instagram account. It's just Elizabeth Jirak. I think that one's public too, accidentally, but if you want to follow me there, you can. And then I'm on TikTok on Lizzie Letters, and I'm on Pinterest, which I've actually been working on a lot of just like um seeing how Pinterest works and posting stuff on there. Um, but just I'm gonna keep on posting some whatever the Lord is teaching me in the moment and honesty and whatever scripture is blowing my mind at the moment. So that's it.
All right. And I just remembered something, and I'll kick myself if I don't ask about it. Powerlifting.
Oh yeah.
Is that just like a family thing that you all do? Is that just a hobby you
Actually,
have?
I have to correct you. It's actually Olympic lifting. It's a very big difference.
My apologies. Okay, so Olympic lifting, is that
Yeah.
like the family sport that you guys do?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
My family is very athletic. I'm probably the least athletic out of all my family, but I grew up like mandatory everyday running and swimming, and I coached swim and taught some lessons for a little bit. But then randomly in small town Winchester, Kentucky, there is this gym with an Olympic level coach who teaches Olympic lifting. Olympic lifting is clean and jerk and snatch.
Okay.
And so randomly I just like joined the team with my sisters and my dad. And so somehow that has become my sport. I competed in like state when I was 17, I think, but I
Mhm.
haven't competed since, but I keep up with it. So yes, the incredibly niche sport that my family does for some reason.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So next time you want to tell Lizzie to drink bleach or eat glass, remember
Yeah.
she could quite literally pick you up
Yes.
above her head and throw you.
Just remember.
Just remember
I
that.
don't want to, but I will.
It's easy to say that behind a screen, but say it to her face and see what happens. All right. Well, Lizzie, thank you again for taking time. This was a privilege to be able to do this, and I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy listening to this conversation. So thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you.